My name is Jessie Ace. I'm part of a group of ENabled Warriors that you've probably never heard of. We're fighting back against our invisible illness and taking the dis out of disability. We don't give sympathy to our symptoms. They enable us to be the warrior that we are. If you ask doctors and nurses, they'd say what we're doing is impossible. But pushing the limits of our conditions is something that we have to break through every single day. So we push the limits. We are mentally strong. We can do anything. The question is, how far can we push those limits? This podcast will give you the answers. I'm Jessie Ace, and this is the Disabled to Enabled podcast. Enabled Warriors, welcome back to part 2 of our interview with today's guest. We've just spoken about their diagnosis. If you missed it, make sure to go back and have a listen. In this section, we'll have a chat about the amazing things that today's guest has done since their diagnosis. Hey Enabled Warriors, welcome back to part 2. We are back with Amy Thompson, and she's going to tell us all about her blog, But You Don't Look Ill. So looking forward to this section. Okay, so tell us what your blog, But You Don't Look Ill, is all about to start with.
Okay, so I started my blog about 2 years ago now. So the story behind the name was basically because I got told that I didn't look ill or that I looked really well almost every single time that I saw someone after I was diagnosed. And obviously it's not a bad thing to hear that you look well, and it's not a negative thing for people to say. But it made me realise that my illness is very much invisible to outsiders. And I initially started my blog to talk about my journey with MS. But over the next few months-ish, I discovered that there were so many people out there struggling with the fact their illness is invisible. And it's not just MS. There are so many illnesses that I hadn't even heard of. And I just wanted to create something that would share my story, but also share other people's stories as well.
I love that. That's so good. And I love the fact that you share so many different stories of different illnesses as well. I think that's super important.
Yeah.
Because as I like to say, I'm podcast, I'm full of quotes, and my favorite quote right now is, "Nothing changes until the unspoken is said." And it's so true.
Love it.
So true. Because nobody knows about these things until we talk about them, especially because they're invisible. And on your blog, you talk about changing the perception around invisible illnesses a lot as well, and kind of making the invisible visible and that sort of thing. So let's talk for a moment about the perception that's around invisible illnesses and how you think we can change that perception.
Yeah, so there is somehow still a belief that if you don't look ill, then you're not really ill. And I think people are definitely becoming more aware. Like I've seen it a lot more in soaps, and I've seen celebrities talking about it and stuff, but I still think there is quite a long way to go. So through my blog, I've spoken to hundreds of people who have had like awful experiences literally because their illness is invisible and because people just don't quite get it. So things like people are questioned when using disabled toilets, when parking in disabled spots.
Yep.
They're asked to move when sitting in disabled seats. They're stared at when they use a walking stick, or when they use a wheelchair one day but then can walk the next day. There's literally so many situations, and it is literally because we need to change perceptions and help educate people and help people understand. And I think what I'm trying to do is normalize the fact that you can't always tell someone like how someone is feeling just by looking at them, or what's going on behind closed doors. And I've recently started sharing people's stories, as you said, of people living with invisible illnesses. And I literally just hope that if I can just educate one person about one illness, then that one person will be more understanding, and they'll maybe think before they judge, and they'll just be kinder. And yeah, I just want to share as many stories as I can, including my own, and make the invisible visible, because otherwise, if we don't talk about it, as you said, nothing will change and people will still have the same perceptions.
Exactly. Yes. So true. It's so true. Do you think that that being diagnosed yourself with an invisible illness and kind of talking to other people, do you think that's taught you more about the perceptions that are going on in the world? Because I don't know about you, but like I was probably one of those people years and years and years ago who was like looking at people weirdly when they got out of a car and walked from a disabled space kind of thing.
Oh my God, 100%.
Yes. Do you think that's the kind of the same thing for you as well?
Definitely. So I would be lying if I said I wasn't one of those people. And I think that's why I'm not angry when people do it. I just want to try and change it, because I understand why people have those thoughts, because I had those thoughts. I would have given someone a funny look if, and I hate that I would have, but I would have. I know I would have.
Yeah.
And it has been amazing to speak to so many different people about so many things. Like, there are some things that people have told me that hasn't happened to me. And it's horrible to hear some of the experiences that people have had, but it's really eye-opening. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to open people's eyes to the things that are happening and to how it makes people feel as well, people living with invisible illnesses. Because there are so many perceptions out there, and it is easy to have these perceptions if you don't fully understand.
Yeah, million percent. And are there any kind of stories that you've been told that really sort of stand out to you as being really shocking?
There are honestly so many. I'll just tell you about a recent one. So there was a girl who, like, I would think that she looked really healthy, but she's actually got about 5 different chronic illnesses.
Wow.
She really struggles. She doesn't leave the house much. She's been bedbound for about a year before this. I think she's just about getting a little bit of improvement now. But she managed to go out with her friends to a restaurant, and she had to use the disabled toilet because the normal toilets were up some stairs, and she can't walk upstairs because she has POTS, which it's to do with your heart, and if you stand too long, and it's and she explained this to the manager, I think it was, and he said, no, you have to go upstairs. And she said, I can't go up, I physically can't go up the stairs. And he literally like laughed in her face and said, you cannot use these toilets. And it's just things like that. Like, it's awful that people are put in that situation, and she physically could not go up those stairs. It wasn't even like she just didn't feel like it. She physically couldn't go up them. And it's just, it's hard. I just think that although I understand that people have these perceptions, that there's no excuse to be that unkind. If someone is saying, I physically can't go up them stairs, people should realise that they're not just saying it for fun. Like, you wouldn't make a song and dance about something just to use some toilets downstairs. So yeah, it's a bit of both. It's a bit of being kinder, but also helping people understand as well.
Totally. Yeah. And it's interesting that you shared that story, because something very similar actually happened to me.
Really?
One time there was a bar in London that I was in. I think I was actually with the MS Society, which is kind of ironic. And it was really random. And basically there was a disabled toilet on the kind of main floor that we were on, and then the normal toilets were down 2 flights of stairs. And I'd been walking around London all day. I was like absolutely exhausted. I was like, I cannot. I just know, because my legs were so weak by this point, I was just like, if I go down then I am not going to get back up them. That's just a fact. And so I went over to the disabled toilet, and there was this bouncer guy outside the door. Literally, there was a bouncer on the toilet. What the heck is it? And this guy was like twice the size of me. I was like, oh my God, this is really scary. And he was just like, yeah, regular toilets are downstairs. I was like, yeah, I understand that, and this is why I need to use this, blah, blah, blah. Explain about MS and all this sort of stuff. And he was just like, no, I don't believe you. No, I don't believe you. And I was like, what do you want to see? Do you want to see my MRI scans? Like, do you want me to get my disabled badge out of my bag? Like, what do you want? Like, I just need a wee. Please just let me need a wee. I was getting a bit hangry by this point as well. And I was just like, look, this is ridiculous. You're judging me. I'm going to go and talk to your manager. just let me in, sodding toilet. This is ridiculous. And he kept trying to say, like, you look too healthy. You look too normal. You look too ill, blah, 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 whatever. And I was so angry.
So
I was
bad.
shaking. It was terrible. And the first thing I did was, like, when I left the toilet, went back to the MS Society, and I was like, I'm going to write you a blog on this because you need this on your site. This happens far too often. It's just awful. It really is.
Definitely. It's so bad, and it does just need to change, because no one should be made to feel like that.
Not in the slightest. Let's just take a short break to thank our sponsors. Enabled Warriors, do you want to win a copy of the Enabled Warrior Symptom Tracker book for free? The Symptom Tracker book will allow you to track your symptoms, instantly spot triggers, and get the best care possible from your doctors. Dr. Gretchen Hawley from the MSing Link said it was brilliant for those with chronic illnesses to give their doctors more accurate information. Recording these nuggets of information can be a game changer in receiving the best care for you and your symptoms. Inside the book, you'll find everything that you need to live your best life with chronic illness. Have you ever sat in an appointment and couldn't recall when your symptoms started, how long they lasted, the date of your first relapse, how long you've been on medication? Oh, me too. It's so annoying. That's why I made these pages in the book to help with this. Do you want to find out what foods are triggering your symptoms? Great, that's in the book too. Do you wish that you could wake up feeling positive and energetic every single day? The daily sheets in this book will help you do just that. Enter the giveaway by going to www.mybookgiveaway.com and enter your details through the message on Facebook Messenger that will pop up. If you are impatient and you want one now, then go get your Enabled Warrior Tracker book from www.enabledwarriors.org/book. Both of the links are in the show notes, so go and click them there. And get in control of your chronic illness today and start living the life you deserve. Stay enabled, warriors. Now let's get back to our guest. But anyway, let's move on to some more positive sort of stuff. So you started running, and that is awesome. And you set yourself a goal to do the London Marathon. Like, you like to go like above and beyond goals, right? So, okay. So have you ever ran before? Question one. And how on earth did you start training for a marathon? Because that is a big goal.
Yeah. So I do like doing things which are a bit ridiculous. I like just to set myself a challenge and just work my socks off to do it, basically.
I love that.
So I'd ran when I was in secondary school, but that was about it. And I'd done like a few random 5Ks over the years. But yeah, I hadn't ran properly for a number of years. And I was really unfit at the time. I don't know why I thought it was a good idea. But I found this quite a good training plan online, and I think it was a 16-week training plan, but I gave myself about 18 weeks. So I started training just after Christmas, and I followed this plan, and it was amazing. Like, it was actually shocking how quickly my fitness went up. So I literally went from nothing to running 3 to 4 times a week. And I slowly built up so my first goal was 5K, and then 10K, and then half marathon. So I did all that in about, I think it was 12 weeks that I got to half marathon. And I was literally running like 10 miles without stopping. It was, honestly, I don't even know how I did it. Like, I don't know, but it shows that it is possible. Like, I genuinely went from doing nothing to doing that. And I just think when you've got a goal in your mind, you genuinely can do whatever you put your mind to. So yeah, just before I got to the half marathon point, the London Marathon was cancelled. I know. So I decided to continue with my plan, and my next run was I was running the Liverpool half marathon. And I don't think I was quite ready. But I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it anyway, because I don't want all this training to go to waste. So I did it, and I struggled. I did struggle. It was really hard. And since then, I got a knee injury. So I had to have quite a few months off training, and which is fine because the London Marathon got postponed. So basically I need to start all over again.
Oh gosh.
But it's okay, because I really genuinely did enjoy it. Like, I never thought I'd say that, but I did, and I'm quite excited to start again. So yeah, I'll be running. I won't be running in the October. Still not sure. We're still not sure whether it's going to be going ahead in October, but I've decided that I'm going to be doing the April 2021 London Marathon.
Right, got you. Yeah, that's amazing though. It's like, oh wow. I mean, it must have been so annoying to get to that point and then go, oh, it's been cancelled. You're like, oh no.
It was. It was so annoying. But if I'd still picked up the knee injury, then I might not have even been able to do it. So I feel like everything happens for a reason.
Well, yeah, there is that.
Yeah.
It's just timing, isn't it? Timing.
I know.
Just impeccable. Oh gosh. So the big question that I really want to know is, have you convinced any members of your group to do it with you, seeing as it's postponed?
No.
Oh no.
So there are actually a lot of people that have taken up running, and we have talked about doing some sort of like fundraiser in the future, like maybe a Tough Mudder or something like that.
Nice.
Yeah, because a lot of them have taken up running during coronavirus, but yeah, I don't think any of them would have been mad enough to sign up for the London Marathon. Maybe next year.
Maybe next year. I mean, you never say never.
Never say never, no.
They're probably going to be listening to this going, yeah, no, Amy, no.
Absolutely not.
No. Oh, that's so funny. And speaking of your group, let's chat a little bit about your group, because seeing that growth over the last year has been incredible, because you're up to 170 members now. What?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's crazy how much it's grown. So yeah, I think you mentioned earlier that the group actually came about because of my blog. So I had 5 girls message me separately about blogs I'd written about MS, and we just got chatting. So I got to know the girls individually, and it got to the point where one of them would ask me a question about something and I wouldn't really know the answer, or I hadn't experienced that. But then another one of the girls would ask me the same thing. So then I was like, well, why don't I just put all these girls together? And I just thought the more of us there were, the more we could help each other, because the more experiences people have. So I asked them if they'd be happy being added into the group, and they were. So we then had a really small group, and we had our first meet up, and I met 2 of the girls. And then basically, I don't really know where like the turning point was, but the group just grew and grew, and I think we were stuck on about 50 members for quite a while. But we had 2 meetups during this time, and then yeah, just people heard about it from different people, and the MS Society advertised it for me as well. And yeah, now we have weekly Zoom meetups. We've done things like a murder mystery and a virtual bottomless brunch, which was really fun. And yeah, we're planning the next in-person meetup, and I'm really excited because there's so many of us now. And yeah, it's just really nice to know that it's, because it helps me as well. People constantly message me and say like, oh, thanks so much for setting up the group, but it also helps me. Like, it's so nice for me to have people the same age and people that I can really relate to. So yeah, it's just good all round for everyone.
That's amazing. That really is great. And like, because I know that was the one thing that I found when I was newly diagnosed, it's like trying to find people my own age with it, because it just seems so impossible at the time. So yeah, it's great. And it's great to know that you're not alone, and like there are people that are your age and stuff. So that's really cool.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it's great that you kind of really formed those relationships as well.
Yeah, because I just felt when I was diagnosed that there wasn't anything out there for me. I just felt like there were local support groups and there were a few bits online, but there wasn't anything specifically for young people that was like relaxed and friendly and nice. So I just wanted to create that. So yeah, I'm really glad I did, because I've made some really good friendships from it.
That's amazing. I'm really glad you did. It's cool. Yeah. Did you ever go to another support group at all?
Yeah, so I'm actually part of my local support group in Manchester, which is Trafford and Southwest Manchester. And that was like the first people that I met with MS. But the group is 50 plus. Like,
that's what I was going to say, because like that's what I kind of found was like the youngest age range.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it's fine, like they're all lovely people, I get on really well with them, that's why I keep going back, but it's not the same type of support that I get from speaking to people my own age. It's more like I help them with events and stuff, like I help them raise money for the MS Society, and it's nice to have those people, and I have made friendships, but it's just a bit different when they're not your age and you're not in the same place in your life. It's just very different. But
not in the same place with your MS either necessarily.
Definitely.
They tend to be quite more further along in their MS journey, and quite kind of higher up the MS spectrum, I think, when you get to that age as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, it's good. So before we move on to part 3, do you have any advice out there for newly diagnosed people with MS?
Yeah, so as we said before, remember that everyone's MS is different, and take everything you read with a pinch of salt, because something that works for one person might not work for you. I would also say get some support if you feel like it would benefit you. Of course, you'll have your friends and family, which I'm sure will be great. But I do think what's really helped me is speaking to people that really get it. So other people with MS. But I would also say don't rush into the first support group that you find, because there are so many groups out there. And so you have local support groups, you have online support groups, you have charity run groups, and you really just need to figure out what works for you and what support you actually need, because like I said, what works for one person won't work for another person. But the biggest piece of advice I would give someone is to not let your MS define you. And you're allowed to be sad and angry and feel overwhelmed and any other emotion that you feel. And not every day will be a good day, but all of that is okay. And I would say take one day at a time and just know that you're not alone and that it will be okay, and you will be okay.
I love that. That's great advice. That is amazing advice. Thank you so much for sharing such amazing advice with us. Enabled Warriors, please join us again in part 3 to catch the final bit of our interview with today's guest. Super quick secrets round coming up. Remember, if you've been affected by any of the issues raised in this episode, then please leave a comment and let us know what it is. And subscribe wherever you're listening so you never miss out on great stories. Warriors listening, if you've enjoyed this episode and you want to win $100, leave a review on Apple Podcasts and tell us what you liked best. We'll choose one review at random each month to win $100, and after you've left your review, remember, go and click that subscribe button. Are you ready to fight back against your chronic illness and go from being disabled to enabled? Do you want to be an enabled warrior, someone who's brave, strong, and confident, and someone who's ready to find a way to achieve awesome things despite a diagnosis? This is your invitation. Check out DISabledtoENabled.com for articles and reviews to find out how you can become enabled too. Subscribe to the podcast to always be in the know. If you think this podcast is better than sleeping in on a Sunday, tickle that subscribe or follow button wherever you're listening. And make sure to share this episode with someone who needs some inspiration. Want to ask your questions to future guests? Make sure to join our Enabled Warriors tribe on Facebook and look out for our question posts. Before we go, check out DISabledtoENabled on Instagram for posts that tell it like it is. And remember, warriors, stay enabled.